Good morning, and welcome to the International Mastermind Think and Grow Rich Show. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist, and I am just so excited to be back with you. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. Actually, I've been gone, but I've been watching, spending time with family, but this is my family as well. So today we're going to be talking about autosuggestion and how do you influence the subconscious mind. How do you actually tell your brain what it is that you're wanting to do? And this is actually one of my favorite principles and chapters to get into, so I can't wait for this conversation. And this is going to be a conversation. Not only do we want to hear from you, but we're going to have our co-hosts join us and really share their perspective on how they influence the subconscious mind. Why is it important to be able to use autosuggestion? Why even mess around with this? Why was this principle even included in Napoleon Hill's success formula? So let's get started by bringing in my co-hosts. The first is the speaker who only requires one name, Pegine. Come on into the conversation. How are you doing, young lady?
Oh, I am amazing and wonderful. Hey, that in itself is an auto suggestion, right? I choose to be amazing. I am amazing. And that is what we're talking about. How do we ensure that we are amazing by using auto suggestion? I'm really excited. I was sharing, and I can't wait to talk about this topic because one of the things that I discovered in the last 12 hours actually was some embedded deep in my gut, deep inside beliefs, biases, and thoughts that I didn't even know existed. And so grateful for my daily work. So grateful that I always ask the divine for guidance, for information to help me be a better person, to help me see the world in a bigger, better light. And you know, I just know just by asking, I have a message. What do you want to delegate to me, the divine? Just ask.
Mm.
So I have that right in front of me. And one of the reasons is I forget to ask. And I just have to tell you that I've been asking to have more global speaking opportunities. And I have been receiving those. But in the reception and in the prep, I became aware that I had deep, I mean, did not even know they existed, beliefs and thoughts about accents, about English, and I'm in the morning right now. I'm going, whoa, how embarrassing is that? It's time to go deeper into auto suggestion. It's time to be have add more insights and wisdom, more messages to myself to be a global human that can eliminate some of these unconscious thoughts that I have. That's what unconscious bias, right, is unconscious bias is that you have deep-seated thoughts that need to be eradicated.
So don't know what happened. So you must be speaking power because everything is conspiring to try to quiet you down. So that's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah, or you're talking too much. Come on, let's bring Ann in.
Yeah, well, hey, so again, Anne's not going to allow us to have this conversation just one on one. So let's go ahead and bring her in. Miss Ann McNeil, come on in. How are you doing this morning?
Listen. Ann McNeil, the master wealth builder, helping to build strong and better lives and businesses, and using this auto suggestion principle. And I would like to kick us off, Galen, by just sharing some foundational information about auto suggestion as we discussed prior to the program starting. And the author tells us that no thought, and this is what Pegine is talking about, whether it is negative or positive, can enter our subconscious mind Without this principle, it's not going to happen without the principle of autosuggestion, which is basically your self-talk and the talk of others, whether it's advertisement or family or friends. And we'll get into that. That's what Pegine is talking about. But with the exception of the thoughts that you pick up from the ether, and you can program yourself. And that's what taking these fears, these doubts, this indecision about things. But when you take these impressions, right, from our five senses, that they are stopped by your conscious mind. And this is what we're going to get into. And your conscious mind goes on to your subconscious mind, and it either accepts or rejects these thoughts at will. So when we start talking about, then this is for all of you that's listening, that the conscious faculty serves, if you just think about it, as an outer guard. Okay, and Galen's going to give us some examples, but as an outer guard to your subconscious mind. Your conscious is an outer guard or a gatekeeper, whatever you want to call it, to your subconscious mind. And so, Galen, with those thoughts in mind, as we kick this conversation off, we want to encourage our listeners to remember to comment, like, and share, but also subscribe to our YouTube, Think and Grow Rich Mastermind Live on YouTube. Please subscribe. But Galen's going to talk also about the fact that we're offering you an opportunity to come on next week and share with us as a special guest. So we'll hear more information about that. So Galen, let's get this party started.
Yeah, let's get into it, because there are just so many things that we've already talked about in our pre-show conversation that we were really protective of, trying to make sure that we save it for the actual show. But this is how you have success on purpose. Anyone can be successful accidentally, right? If you go to the gas station and say, give me a lottery ticket, and just give me the number 25 lottery ticket, and you strike it rich, any of us can do that and be successful accidentally. But this is how you do it on purpose. So before we jump into this conversation, I would love for Pegine talk a little bit about the full philosophy, because this sits as part of several steps. It's not just an isolated idea, and I'd love for you to talk about that and lead us into the video.
So I'm glad that I can do the lead in into the video, because the whole point that we do this every single week is a process of autosuggestion. It is the process of filling your mind, your heart, your soul with the 13 principles that you can use to guide yourself to have the life that you want, the finances that you want, the health that you want, and the joy that you want. And when you embrace these 13 principles, you too will find yourself pondering, how can I be my most highest self? So let's listen to the 13 steps, get ready to receive, and get ready to apply.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith. Having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the mastermind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts. The burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
All right. I never grow tired of watching that video. So it is always helpful and profitable to see how all this knits together. And before we get into this conversation, I just want to acknowledge it's always helpful and profitable to see how all this knits together. Watching us live, we've got Doretha Dennis, who is always in the audience. Colette Coleman is here. Dr. Raquel Rubin. Oh my gosh, I hope you guys were able to be a part of the show when she was our guest, but she is here in the audience as well, and so many other people. Please be sure that you are commenting that you've already subscribed and that you like and that you share, because you've got to know someone. There's got to be someone in your life that you believe has to hear this information, because we're going to get into really how do you, as I said earlier, how do you have success on purpose? And there's one thing that I want, one concept, one image that has hit me, and it's hitting me differently. And everyone has seen this image of an iceberg. So we're going to go ahead and put up this new image that I've come across. And it doesn't really give me any more information, but it hits me in a different way. It just talks about the top part of the iceberg. These are the things that we reveal. These are the thoughts. These are the perception. This represents the conscious mind and the things that we present to the world. Just below that are the things that we conceal. And the first part is the subconscious mind. Obviously, it's sub, meaning just below the conscious mind. These are the memories. These are the stored knowledge. These are the things that we learned back in the 3rd grade that we consciously don't know that we remember, but it's there. But if you look below the subconscious mind, that's the unconscious mind. That's where our fears are. That's where our irrational wishes, that's where our wild dreams are. And that part, the unconscious mind, is actually what fuels everything. That's what informs our subconscious mind. That's what adds fuel and motivates our conscious mind. But do we ever take time trying to understand how to influence that unconscious mind? Well, the way that you do it, according to Napoleon Hill, is through auto suggestions, the things that we tell ourselves. Businesses understand that because that's why they advertise, and you hear the same advertisement 8 or 9 times in the same 30 minutes. That's because they're trying to influence your unconscious mind. That's why you might notice that if you're watching something on television, the commercials are just a little bit louder than the show that you're watching, because those companies are trying to influence your unconscious mind, even below your subconscious mind, because they know that's what drives this behavior. And so, as the foundation of this conversation, I want to bring in both Pegine and Miss Ann, and let's talk about what are some things that you've become aware of that is clearly part of your unconscious mind. You didn't even know that it was there. And how do you influence your unconscious mind with the things that you want it to have, as opposed to the things that others might want you to feast on? So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to reverse my order. I usually save Ms. Ann for last. I want to start with Ms. Ann. So, Ms. Ann, what are some things that you've become aware of that is in your unconscious mind, and how do you influence your unconscious mind so that you're doing the things that you want to do, as opposed to those things that others around you might want to influence you into doing? You're on mute right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Producer. I would start with the idea that both my poverty thoughts and my prosperity thoughts come from the same place. And going back to the JPEG you just showed, it comes back to the beginning, with my mom being a holiness minister and my father being a day laborer but a businessman, which then began to impact and influence who I am today. But now learning through the principles of this book how to apply the prosperity thoughts. And I'll just give one example. We talked earlier about, you said it actually, Galen. You said, oh, Christmas speeches. Do we still teach our kids, Christmas speech, Easter speech, and these speeches? And I said, no, not really. When the last time you taught your daughter, an Easter speech for church? So many years ago, I know when I was growing up, my mom, being a holiness minister, had us in church, yes, at least 6 days a week, and sometimes twice on Sunday. But the scripture was ingrained in me. But the disconnect was always being surrounded by the subliminal seduction of you're nothing, you're never going to be anything, you're nobody, by the media and the teachers and those during that desegregation period of time. And so these principles have helped me to overcome a lot of that, and going back to the subconscious mind being programmed by autosuggestion and my own self-talk. And so starting in 79, 80, 81, as I began to read these principles and then began to apply them, still on this journey, I now have a little better understanding how to program my own mind for not just success, but great success in the spirit of service to others. So those are just some thoughts. I mean, Begin's going to go through some examples. And I tell you, we want to encourage all of our listeners, as we continue this podcast, put in the chat either on Facebook or on YouTube, put in the chat one example of a quote or a scripture or a song or something that was just embedded in you at an early age, and now it is, you can connect to it in a different way. That is the power of autosuggestion. That is the power of autosuggestion. I cannot say it enough, because that is the self-talk, and we each have the ability to change that picture.
Yeah. Hey, one quick comment before we go to Pegine, because it's those things that are happening around us that we don't even necessarily know that that they're happening around us.
Subliminally.
They're subliminally happening,
Yes.
and we don't know that it's influencing us. It's doing some work, and we've got the television on just kind of as background information, as background noise. You're not even focused on the television, but that's impacting your subconscious mind. Your brain is picking up that information, although you're not consciously focused on it. And then you wonder why at 12 o'clock, for some reason, you've got a hankering for McDonald's. You don't know why, but you've got this craving for McDonald's, right? And it's because of that television that's been on the background that you weren't paying attention to. So, Pegine, I'm curious, what are some things that you are coming to realize that have been influenced by your unconscious programming? It has seeped into your subconscious mind, and it might be influencing your behavior. It might be influencing your conscious thoughts, how you show up, and you didn't even know that that information was coming at you. What are some examples of things that may have happened like that? And then what do you do to be successful on purpose as opposed to just being successful by accident? You're on mute as well.
Oh, there we go. So there are a couple of things that are popping to my mind, and I'm going to talk about two different aspects, because I think one is when you've been doing this work a lot, when you've been investing, I spend an hour in the morning investing in my mind. I have my vision, I have my goals, all of those things, and one of those was to do something. So I'm going to talk about two different things. One is about when the divine wakes you up to something that you did not know existed. It was not even in your mind. And what happened? I'll share a story about that. And the second, when we talk about money and receiving money, what have we learned and heard over time? So and how we need to be made aware of not just like what Galen was saying, not just what's in our subconscious, but in our unconscious, so that we could bring that to the light and then flip it to have a new perspective. So the first example that I can share is, I do have in my mantra, I'm a worldwide speaker. I choose to speak around the world. So tomorrow I'm a keynote speaker for the Professional Association of Speakers in India. And one of the things that I was frustrated about or thinking about over the last couple of weeks was, how do I become relatable? How to make sure that I'm saying the right things at the right time. I remember a moment when I presented to a group in English, and they didn't speak English, the majority of them. And so I didn't know about translating things back then. I was a lesson learned. And I was very sensitive this time. So sensitive that I created a song. I wrote a song, I produced a song. I hired 2 Indian singers to sing the song, one in English, one in Hindu, one in English. And one of the things and all of that was divine inspiration, right? All of that was allowing that to go in. But what I confronted was some unconscious bias that I had, that last night I was able to go, oh, where did that come from? And it was this, that when I was hearing all the Indian speakers, and they were all speaking in English and they all had an accent, a memory, a thought, an aha, an unconscious bias burst through me, came out, and that was, I perceived that the Indian accent to English was because they spoke a primary other language, and that was influencing their accent. I am humbled, I'm embarrassed, I'm amazed, I'm just amazed that that would even come into me. And what I recognized was, of course, I had seen comedians over time. Since I was little, I heard people who said horrible things, and would comedians who would use an accent, right? So I didn't realize that I had unconsciously received perceptions and images. And last night, in a moment, and I'm so grateful for Think and Grow Rich, because had I not been doing the work, I wouldn't have been aware and allowed the divine opening within me to say, ooh, that's just their accent, just the way somebody from Alabama speaks, or Louisiana speaks with an accent, and Texas and the Bronx, which I'm from, or England or Australia. English is English. It's with their accent that they grew up. And it was embarrassing to me, humbling to me, that I was made aware of this bias, this thought. So, and if I'm going to grow more worldly, and I travel all over the world, I have to be allowing myself to expose my unconscious bias so that I could be in love with the people that I want to serve and be with. So that's number one, right? So now with autosuggestion, I'll be shifting, saying I am open to receiving and learning from people around the world so I understand their culture more effectively. That's going to be a new kind of autosuggestion. The second thing that I want you to know is one of the struggles that I've had my whole life is make tons of money, lose tons of money, make tons of money, lose tons of money, make money comes easy. Ooh, and then it's so easy that something comes in and goes, oh, we lost it all. What I recognized from that was going back in my house, growing up, Mom would have moments of great prosperity and buy things. And then the next day it'd be like she'd be searching for pennies for milk. And then scream at us if we asked for something. So the day before, it would be, you can have whatever you want. The day after was screaming at us. Well, think about that. What does it do to a kid? What do you think about money? Money comes, money goes, and you could be an emotional high, or it could be emotional sadness. That is another unconscious message that was embedded. And so when you start doing prosperity work and you start thinking about prosperity work, what I've had to recognize is money is always stable. Money is flowing energetically to me with ease and guidance, and I am always taken care of. That every single time I am cared for the way the ducks, the fish, the birds, and the trees are. And I always, always have income coming in, no matter what. So that is an auto-suggestion, a mindset shift, a clarity. That's how I'm using auto-suggestion, because it's not the subconscious. As you clean your mind up, as you clean the process, the subconscious, that the subconscious, sometimes that you're thinking wrong thinking, right? It's the unconscious that you have to be willing. Some people call it shadow work. The unconscious is what you have to be willing to put the light on so you can elevate yourself and shift through auto-suggestion your beliefs and faith and the messages that you give yourself. Hey, Ann, or Galen, I don't know where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just, again, that's a powerful story. And I love the way you were able to identify things that might be getting in the way of your success with this event that you're getting ready to speak at. And one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about is, how do you do this work on purpose? How do you feed your unconscious mind what you want it to feed on? And if you go to page 71 in this version of the book, he gives some instruction. He says that first you go into some quiet spot, preferably in your bed at night, where you're not be disturbed. You close your eyes and repeat aloud the words that you've written as your affirmation, or any affirmation, basically the things that you want your life to manifest, the things that you want your conscious to be supplied with. That's what you repeat to yourself right before you go to sleep. And then ideally you do it again first thing in the morning, but you want to give your subconscious an opportunity to hear those words. And you have to do this repeatedly in order for it to hit your unconscious, because again, your unconscious is what's going to really fuel your behavior. Your subconscious is what comes to memory, comes to mind out of nowhere. You remember that Easter speech from the 3rd grade. Your conscious mind is what you actually find yourself thinking about. So Napoleon Hill says that your first step is you go into a quiet room, you repeat this affirmation that you've created for yourself over and over again. And the second step is, let me turn the page. Second step is that you repeat this program night and evening until you can visually see in your imagination this thing that you're saying in your affirmation that you want to manifest. And then thirdly, you place a written copy of your statement, of your affirmations, in a place where you can't help but see it, on your phone, on your mirror. My wife puts these affirmations on our mirror. So when we're brushing our teeth, we can't help but see these stickers, these Post-its that are on the mirror. Don't worry if you're not consciously reading it all the time, because again, we're trying to influence your unconscious mind. Just have these affirmations in places where you can't avoid them. And that's the process that Napoleon Hill recommends. I want to bring back Anne and Pegine and ask, how do they inform their unconscious and subconscious mind? And while you guys are coming up with what you want to share, I'll just share one thing that I've just noticed about myself. You know, I actually have an office where I come to you and I do a lot of things. I spend a lot of time here. And this office was decorated when I was in corporate America. And so I've got a lot of things that kind of represent what I was trying to do when I was trying to become senior vice president of sales for a Fortune 500 company. Well, that was over 6 years ago. And my intention has changed. But the images in my office, they have not changed. And so I keep wondering why. Boy, I make progress in this work that I'm doing now, but I seem to always get this pull back into, I wonder if I could still be a senior vice president of sales for a Fortune 500 company. There's always this tug. And based upon this work, I looked around my office. I'm like, I still have the same images influencing my unconscious mind. And that's where that tug is coming for me personally. Ms. Ann, what are some things that you do to kind of clean out your unconscious mind? And I keep going back to this phrase, to ensure that you're having success on purpose rather than just by accident.
Well, I on a daily basis, I have what I call a daily date with myself. And I have the book here of the exercises that I do. And Pegine mentioned the work. And so for me personally, I actually recite and I write and I listen to all 3, 7 days a week, the self-confidence formula. I also have my own personal affirmation, and I shared, Peter and I both on the last podcast we shared. And so for the benefit of the question, and assuming that everybody who's listening this time was not here last time, I'll just quickly recite, because I think it's very important when you think about Napoleon Hill, when he gives us the instructions. And you were talking about, the self-talk. But oftentimes I find as I coach for the last 10 years, Black NSA $1 Million Mastermind, I have a process that I take people through. And a part of the process is taking page 28 from the book, which are the 6 steps, the 6 keys. And I actually put my name and said, text Ann at 55678 if you want those 6 keys. But simply is how much, doing what, by when, and exactly what you just mentioned. But oftentimes while I'm coaching, individuals want to change the words. Now, when we get an instruction for our new phone, oftentimes we don't read the instructions. I know how to do this. And then we have to go to a 7-year-old and say, can you help me with this? Well, that's what I had to do. Or you get instructions on how to do a task at work. You say, I know how to do this. And then you find yourself having to go to your supervisor and say, look, hold up, can you help me with this? Because I thought I knew. Well, I take the same attitude, Galen, about these instructions that Napoleon Hill gives us. And I will encourage all of our listeners, please don't try to shortcut. In the beginning, write and recite the words exactly the way he gives them to you. And then over time, you will be able to eventually tailor them, tweak here, tweak there to how it applies to you. And so you gave us, Galen, the first step, the second step, and the third step. And I'll just share the actual instruction itself, which he says, by the first day of, and you put into the date, whatever works for you, I will have, and with emotion, and mine says basically that I will have $15,000 passive a month, which will come to me, Ann McNeil, in various amounts from time to time during the interim. But in return for this money, I will give the most efficient service of which I am capable of rendering, the fullest possible quantity and the best possible quality of service in the capacity of a business person. I can see this money. Yes. That my faith is so strong that I can see this money before my eyes. I can touch it with my hands. It is awaiting transfer to me, Ann McNeil, in the time, yes, and the proportion, yes, that I intend to render in return for it. I am awaiting for a plan by which to accumulate this money. And once it is received, it is achieved. Now, that is my daily affirmation for money. Then, of course, I do some others. So whatever it is that works for each of us, and I can tell you now, 5 businesses later, yes, 5 businesses later, focusing on billion-dollar programs. But it started in 1979, 80, 81, 82 with this one statement. And then later on developing an affirmation, which covers all 10 areas of my life. And I could go on, I won't, not today. But Galen, I think it's so very important for all of our listeners. You don't have to recreate the wheel. He is giving you, and we are giving you the instructions right on this page. So please don't try to be too creative at first, but just follow the instructions. And those are my thoughts.
And I'll tell you, I mean, you can't, if you guys were listening to Ms. Ann, that's how this thing is done. You can't do it any better than that. Reading it specifically the way it was written, adding emotion, that's how you do it. And I'll tell you a thought, a mantra, an adage that is usually at the foundation for a lot of people, especially when they go through this for the first or second time. It's the adage that if something seems too good to be true, then it's not true. And a lot of times we have a tendency to think it can't be this simple. It can't be this simple. There has to be something else that has to go into this thing. Well, no, it is just this simple. So do it exactly the way it's written. Do it exactly the way Napoleon Hill shares, and you will be amazed at the results that you will be able to have on purpose. Pegine, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to jump in and share what you're saying in terms of that it's simple. So the words are simple, so simple that you will ignore them because your own bias has said it's going to be harder than this. You want it hard. Here's what the hard part is doing it twice a day, no matter what. It's putting a discipline within your dailiness to do three things. To definitely read this morning and night. Two, to not read it in your mind, but read it out loud, which means that you have to be uncomfortable. You might have to do it around people. I definitely have read it in my mind over and over. I have it written, all this stuff, until I started using that I needed to speak it loud. The way this occurred was seriously, this is what I did. And you just have to know it's silly. It's so silly. See this cord with a microphone, right? I literally will take this, put it into my ears with the microphone showing, put it in my ears, stick the wire not attached to anything inside my shirt, so that as I'm walking, everybody thinks I'm talking to somebody, but what I'm doing is actually saying out my declaration, because I want to look emotive. I want to feel it. I want to share it. So if I'm walking and if you passing me by see me going, this is what I'm declaring, this is who I am, you might not know the words, but what you're feeling is, God, she is really like on fire. That's okay. I need to go at the second thing that I've done, which I highly recommend for everybody, is in Facebook to create your private practice studio. It means that you're making a group that nobody else is in. And what I do is I take my phone, I take my statement behind the phone, and I go live in my practice studio saying my declaration. The reason is this. If you saw Anna, she were reading, it's not just that you're saying the words. It's that you're having emotion attached to the words. And it's not just saying the emotion from an acting place. What you want to do is work on, which is why you have to do it twice a day. You want to work on the belief of what you're saying. And the only way to do that is to trick your own subconscious and unconscious mind to say, this is the message. Are you listening below? This is the message. So that there's that shift. And if you don't do that, what ends up happening is you get caught up in the jingles and advertising. Now I'm huge on chants and jingles. So years ago, I created a song based on some of the things going, I'm a multimillionaire. I am a multimillionaire. I run a wonderful business in a most wonderful way. I give wonderful service and I get wonderful pay. That's why I'm a multimillionaire. So imagine you see somebody singing that all the time. And I was just looking at my records and I was singing. And in 2012, the first quarter, I closed $2.2 million in sales just from singing the song. Now, I had forgotten to keep on singing that song. Guess what song do you think I'm singing lately? That song. So I think it's really important that we understand it is our hard job to do this twice a day with emotion, with physicality, with belief, with passion, because anything else you do during the day will not have the momentum to receive what you're declaring unless you're investing the time. And that is hard.
Yeah, I mean, so let me, because I want to go back to Ms. Ann here for a second, but I said earlier that this is simple, that this seems too simple. Well, it's simple, but simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, right? It's simple to say the words. If you look at the words that are in the instructions, there are very few compound syllables even, right? Very simple words. But the hard work, the thing that's complicated is breaking through your subconscious, breaking through those years and years of programming. As I said earlier, you're going to notice now that the television commercials are a little bit louder than the actual television program that you're watching. So you got to tell yourself what you want louder than what the world is telling you that you're supposed to be, because the world wants something from you. That's why they're doing this.
Hey,
So
Galen, I saw advertising agency conference, and you know why they're turning it up louder now? Because it was never like that before. This is a new phenomenon in the last 6 months. The reason that they're turning up louder is people are using phones while they're watching the shows. And so they need to find a distractor. You're watching your show, you're watching your movie, you are unconsciously watching this because you're also multitasking. And what they found was two things. If they make it louder and if they make it screechier, we get annoyed and we put down our phones and why is that so loud? Why didn't they go in? And that's what they want. Sorry, I just had to jump in.
So we've got to be as diligent. And I keep going back to the same phrase. We've got to be as diligent. We've got to be as conniving. We've got to be as manipulative when it comes to programming our own subconscious to get the success that we want on purpose. One of the places that will help us do this is this annual meeting that we have in Boca Raton. Miss Ann, this is your brainchild. So share a little bit about what this annual meeting is about. And why would it make sense? Why would it benefit anyone to carve a weekend out of their life? And for some of us, travel to Boca Raton to be part of this annual meeting. What do we get from this?
Absolutely, Galen. I want to share also that we are hosting a beta test for mastermind groups, and everything we've been discussing today is impacting your personal and professional mastermind group. So if you're interested in participating with us as a part of the planning, we meet on Tuesdays, and you can reach out to me if you're interested in that. But once a month, we host a beta test conversation inside of the Mighty Networks platform where we're discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly of your mastermind group. And if you're interested in being a part of that conversation, you can go to internationalmasterminders.com/group mastermind and register, and we'll send you the information to join us once a month. But if you are interested in having a better quality of life in every area of your life, you can join us with your family, your coworkers, and your friends every January in Boca Raton at the Embassy Suites. And in 2023, on January 6th and 7th, we will be at the Boca Raton Embassy Suites hosting our International Mastermind Association annual meeting. This is not a conference. Let me say it again. It is an annual meeting for your life. Your life. Everybody is encouraged to bring your life in writing. So you can register by going to internationalmasterminders.com/events to register for the annual meeting. But once you register, we will send you your assignment, your homework. We ask that you bring your life in writing, every area of your life. We also have children that participate with us. Now we've been doing this now for 30 years with the children, especially because the children do grow up. Now, if you are interested in having a better quality of life in every area of your life, everything we just finished discussing, you can connect with me, Ann McNeil, at annmcneil.com/coaching, where we do host on a monthly basis a mastermind accountability challenge And the challenge is we give you a place and a platform for you to work on your own auto suggestion every single day. So everything you've heard me talk about, Galen and Pegine, especially with the exercises Pegine just described, we actually give you a place to do those exercises on a daily basis. We don't talk every day. We only talk once a month, and that's on a Tuesday. So if you're interested in participating with that, you can go to annmcneil.com/coaching, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. All right, Galen.
All right. Well, this has been, again, just one of my favorite conversations because it really gets to the heart of how do we do this thing called life? And how do we navigate all the things that are quite honestly trying to trip us up? There are people, there are forces trying to trip us up because they're wanting our attention, they're wanting our money, they're wanting things from us. But if we're going to have the kind of life that we say that we want to have, there are some intentional things that we've got to do. Again, I just want to go back to Pegine and just kind of get from you, what are your key takeaways from this conversation, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to hear more of this "I'm a Millionaire" jingle? You're
Well,
unmuted again.
so the way that you can get in contact with me is going to pegine.com. But most importantly, if you want some inspiration, insight, information, you want to go to pegine.club, where every single day you receive a positive, uplifting message, including I'll be posting this song, and this is a paid podcast of positivity and uplift. The things I walked away with this is a reaffirmation, rededication to saying out loud twice a day my declaration. I think that's critically important. Two is that I'm walking away once again affirming to myself that I choose to bring the unconscious shadow to the forefront, that I want to bring the light to the dark parts that I don't even know exist so that I can transform my life. I don't want to spend time there. I just want to be aware of them so that I can use my auto suggestions to shift and change my life. And third, I'm going to smile and sing because it makes me happy. How about you, Anne?
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yeah. So,
Pete,
Ann, what are some key things you gotten from this conversation? How can people get a hold of you?
well, I want to start by thanking all of our listeners, and so we love giving a shout out. Doretha, you listen. Every single week, this would not be possible without all of you that come on. Dr. Rubin, she's been on the show. Dr. Carla, we're going to have you on, and all of our listeners and participants, we are here for you. So I just have to keep saying that to remind all of you. Invite a friend, invite a family member, co-worker to participate with us. Colette, thank you also for joining. My aha moment from this program today is the constant reminder of the power of the subliminal seduction. We can either use the self-talk, or we can open ourselves up like a vessel to every, I don't want to say Tom, Dick, and Harry, but Mary and Sue, but to every influence without knowing it is possibly taking us off course toward our definite chief goal, our definite purpose in life. But you have to start by having a desire. That's really what I'm leaving here with, Galen, because the affirmations and all of these things mean absolutely nothing if we don't start with that first principle. And it's biblical. We are given the desires of our heart, but it's our job to determine what is that desire. And once we know what that desire is, the self-talk and the auto-suggestion and all of these principles help to bring it into reality. That's my aha moment. And of course, Ann McNeil, the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business. And if you'd like to connect, especially if you'd like to get the 6 steps, you can text the word "and," that's ANN, at 55678. You can text the word "and" at 55678. And if you'd like to participate in these exercises to get greater clarity, you can reach out to me at annmcneil.com/coaching.
Wow. Yeah. And Ms. Ann, you said it really, really well, that this is even biblical. I mean, I kept thinking about the times that Jesus was tempted by Satan. He verbally said what was in his subconscious. And that's how he avoided the temptations that was being put before him. So there is a lot of biblical reference here. There's a lot of reference to emotional intelligence. I'm taking a couple of courses with Northwestern currently, and we're talking about the exact same kinds of things. Napoleon Hill has just made it very, very clear, very, very simple. But simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. So fantastic, fantastic. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist. There are so many ways you can get a hold of me. I am on every social media platform. You can find me by just typing in Galen Bingham. But the most fun way to get a hold of me and to get in touch with me is to go to any podcast platform and look for Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We are having conversations with amazing leaders. We talk about the whiskeys to drink, the music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I've had conversations with Ms. Ann McNeil in season 1. I've had conversations with Dr. Peter James in season 1. And there's a conversation with Miss Pegine coming in season 3 that you guys just aren't ready for. So please check us out. I double dog dare you to try us just once. And this has been a great conversation. I want to leave you with this because here's another place that says basically the same thing that we've been talking about. I love quotes. And my second book is a book of quotes. One of my favorite quotes in that book is from Noel M. Tichy and Andrew McGill. And they say that given the choice between being in control and being effective, we choose being in control. Because being effective means that we must be in touch with the changing reality and be willing to change with it. It requires the monitoring of our own hypocrisy and the willingness to close those hypocrisy gaps. And that's what we've been talking about. How can you identify those things that are hypocritical to what you're saying you want to accomplish? Embrace those gaps, embrace that hypocrisy just long enough for you to create another narrative, another talk track, so that you can achieve success on purpose rather than hoping, wishing, and dreaming. Put some real structure around trying to be this person and accomplish these things that you say that you want to accomplish someday. This has been Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist with the International Mastermind Association Think and Grow Rich show. We are here every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we would love to have you here each and every Saturday. Next week, we're going to have all of our co-hosts together, and we're going to talk more about what it takes to be successful using the principles of Napoleon Hill. If you'd like to be a part of the show, there's a link that you can that we're going to provide in the body of this podcast, where you can click the link and actually be part of the show. We can actually bring you on screen and have you be part of the conversation. We would love to have that. I love hanging out with these ladies and with Dr. Peter when he's here, but I mean, I'd love to hang out with you too. So take advantage of that opportunity and join the conversation next week and each week. With that, until next time, take care.